Many people call Mega Man 2 the greatest Mega Man game of all time, and it almost didn't happen. While the Mega Man series is massive now, the first game didn't do that well, to the point that Capcom didn't want to bother making a sequel. So director Akira Kitamura went straight to the vice president, and they got the green light to work on it, but only if they kept working on their other projects at the same time. So the team gave up their own time to make the game. They devoted their nights and weekends to it. They even took unused content from the first game and used it in this one just to speed things up. Mega Man 2 was completed in 3 months, and it saved the franchise. It launched the franchise. And it has the same structure as the first game. You have a series of 8 bosses that you can fight in any order. Beating one gives you their weapon that's useful against the other. And most of the rock, paper, scissors matchup makes sense. One guy is a tree, he's weak to saw blades. Another guy is made of fire, he's weak to water. Others make less sense. Why is air weak to leaves? But this whole first half it's sort of like a tutorial. None of it's really difficult, especially if you use the weapon that the boss is weak against, because then they die in a few hits. But their levels aren't very long or difficult either. There's only 2 things in the first half of the game that gave me any real trouble. In Heatman's level, you have to do this whole section with disappearing and reappearing platforms that you have to jump across. And it took me a few tries till I remembered that one of the powers that I had was just this rocket platform that blew me across the whole thing and I could just ignore it. But the other big problem that I couldn't ignore is knockback. Knockback is the most frustrating thing in this entire game. Anytime you take a hit, you get knocked backwards a distance, which is a minor annoyance in most situations, but since Mega Man is separated into individual screens, you can get knocked back to a previous screen and have to do that all over. Getting knocked back off of a ladder or down a pit means you lose all progress on that screen. Or a fun little feature I discovered, when enemies leave the screen, they despawn, and when they respawn, they're back at full health. So you can be fighting an enemy, get knocked back just far enough that they despawn, and you have to start killing them all over again. Or if you're at just the right distance, you can end up with multiple versions of the same enemy on the screen at the same time. But those are the only real challenges in the first half of the game. The real difficulty starts in the second half when you get to the Wily levels. If the first half of the game is just teaching you how to use all the tools that you've collected so far, the Wily levels are the test. You have 3 powers that create different platforms that until now you only needed to reach secret areas that had power-ups, but now you actually need them to get through levels. And I got stuck for a while on one room where you needed to use several platforms to get from one ladder to another ladder in a big empty room. The bosses are more creative. When you're fighting those 8 robots, it's usually just you and them in an empty room. But now you have dragons that you have to fight on platforms, or you're stuck in a box with pieces of the walls and floors flying at you to make little robots. The creativity really ramps up hard, and this is where the game finally starts to shine. And then before you get to Wily, it caps off with a gauntlet where you have to refight all the 8 bosses again. Except now it's a little more difficult, because when you get to Wily, he's weak against certain weapons, so you kind of need to hold off on using those certain weapons. Which means when you're fighting one of the robots that's weak against one of those weapons, you have to improvise and make do with something else. It's interesting, you have to get creative. And the Mega Man series does have a reputation for being hard. Now, I never played the original Mega Man 2, I was playing the Legacy collection for this video, and I did hear that Mega Man 2 was less hard than the original Mega Man, but the Legacy collection actually brings it down even more. First, they added difficulties. There's a normal and a difficult. I played on normal because I didn't know any better. And while you do have limited lives, you have unlimited continues, which just make you start the level all over. And the unlimited continues really plays into the rock, paper, scissors gameplay style of the whole game. They also added a save anywhere feature, which I abused, and a rewind feature that I used it a little, but I really didn't like it. A big part of fighting bosses and playing this game is learning patterns, learning rhythms. And once I was in a rhythm, trying to use the rewind button to go back to a previous spot kind of threw me off and I'd end up dying anyway. Most of the time I was better off just dying and then retrying with full health. The Legacy Collection also added a challenge mode that I really like. It's a timed challenge, but they take screens from different levels and just kind of stick them together. And that feature was really fun. I ended up doing a few of those. So if you want a bit more challenge, I would suggest playing the original Mega Man 2. But if you want something that's more accessible and a lot more forgiving, play the Legacy Collection like I did. And that's it. The game many people have called the greatest Mega Man game of all time. And having barely played any of them, I can confidently say that it's well deserved. The game is just the right level of frustrating and fun. It never gets to I want to quit hard. And the unlimited continues really helps the rock, paper, scissors gameplay. But the one thing I didn't mention in this video is the music, which is legendary, but I can't play any of it without risking the wrath of YouTube. So that's just one more reason to go out and play this game for yourself. See you next time.